क्लास है क्लास इंटर
So if he can't join, then let's continue. So yesterday we were working on Metasploitable. We are going to continue with that. Let me just get my VMs up and running. Do you have any questions before that from what we covered yesterday?
everything was clear.
Okay, all right. Just a couple of minutes more. My VM takes a lot of time to load up. I had it running, but I had to close it for some reason. Right. We should- All right. We should be good to go now. So, okay. So yesterday when we did the scans, we found out quite a few vulnerabilities. Okay. And did you try out anything else apart from what we
So
did?
actually, someone we have some prayers.
Okay.
It's a long term prayer.
Right. Okay. And that error that you were getting, was that solved?
In my case,
Yeah.
yeah, it's solved.
Okay.
Today, I just opened yesterday.
Okay.
Nothing error was showing.
Right. So I'm just going to run a service version scan again. I'm not running the entire,
Yeah.
script scan, the vulnerability script scan. I'm not running that. That can, it's going to take a while. So now there are a couple of other services where, even if they're not vulnerable, if they're not exploitable, there's still a way to use them to access the system. Now, for example, you have VNC. Okay. Have you ever worked with VNC or have you ever used VNC? Have you ever used this to access a system, this VNC service?
No, no, sir. No.
No. Okay. So this is again a way through which you can remotely access a system. So like SSH, you have VNC as well.
Okay.
Now there is a tool in Linux. It is known as VNC Viewer. Okay, and I didn't have to install it. Came pre-installed. VNC Viewer, and you simply connect to the IP where the VNC service is running. So that's port 5900 is by default. So VNC Viewer followed by the IP, and performing standard authentication. Now it's asking me for a password. Now I know that at this point I don't have any password. Okay, I don't know any credentials to the system.
Okay.
I'm considering a situation that for every service that I'm exploiting, I'm considering the situation that I'm not able to get any shell so far, that this is the only service I'm focusing on. I don't know about any of the other services that I've exploited. For every service, I'm looking at it individually. So I don't have any passwords. So what do you think we can try here? Can we try something, or is it something? Is there any approach that we can use here to try and get access to this?
No idea.
Okay, so we can try a little bit of password spraying. Okay, we can try some default passwords, right? In case,
Like I think.
see, in case they haven't, kept a very strong password, we can try using some default passwords here. So one example of a default password or a very common weak password would be, let's say, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, so that didn't work. No worries. We can try something else. We can always try that in reverse. Failure again. No worries. How about pass 1 2 3 4? No. What about the word password itself? Let's see. So that worked. So password was just simply password. That was the actual password. So using that through VNC, I can now access this system, and it's giving me a shell saying root at the rate metasploitable. So this gives me a root shell on the system. So even though there's no exploit here, right? It's not vulnerable. There's not a vulnerability. It's just bad configuration. Okay, like you should never be having default passwords. So because otherwise it makes it easier for an attacker to just see a service, try defaults, and then, right. So, and as an attacker, or not an attacker, I mean as an ethical hacker or as a penetration tester, you should always keep in mind that password spraying is something you can always try. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it works, then you know it's great. All right, so this is one service that Metasploit is not going to help you with. You can simply just use it yourself. Okay, I'm exiting out of it now. Okay, what else do we have? I think I should have used this, because there are quite a few ports even outside of the default 1000 port range that are open on this system. Should be done soon. Yeah, I was right. Okay, so we have already seen what we can do with quite a few of these services, VSFTPD. Then you have your this. There was a direct root shell, right? We can also look if there's anything for Pro FTPD 1.3.1. There is something for another version for this, but I'm not sure whether anything exists for 1.3.1. Let's see. Let's check. 1.3.1 SQL injection protection bypass. All right. There might be something, but all right. We can also look up Metasploit. I mean, we can also look it up in Metasploit. Now, also keep in mind that not all systems will give you this much, these many number of open ports and this much information. Metasploitable is just a special. The only main purpose for Metasploitable was to enable people to practice using Metasploit. Okay, so search Pro FTPD. Okay, there is stuff for 1.2 to 1.3.0, 1.3.2, but there's nothing for 1.3.1. Now with FTP, are you aware of anonymous login with FTP? Like, do you use FTP or do you come across FTP a lot?
No, sir.
No? Okay. So in case you do see sorry, not HTTP, FTP anywhere, one trick thing you can try is to access it anonymously, like without having any credentials. I'm not sure whether that is present on this system. Let's try it. The port number is 2121. Okay.
Directly with FTP IP and what number?
Yeah, if anonymous login is present, like that depends on the configuration. Directly with FTP, you can't get a shell or anything, but you might be able to download files from the FTP server, or you might be able to upload files. And if you can get them executed on the system, then that might allow you to get a shell. But directly, there's nothing that you can do. Okay, the whole purpose of FTP is to simply allow file sharing, right? That's the main thing. FTP is file transfer protocol. Let's see. Okay, so we are able to connect FTP. The command is FTP followed by the IP and then the port number. Now, if it's on port 21, default port, you don't need to specify it. But since that's not the case here, I needed to specify the protocol. Specify the port. Okay, so connected now is going to ask me for a username. I'm going to enter anonymous as the username. Password required. Let's see whether this works. Okay, so it says login failed. So anonymous login is not possible here. So okay, anonymous is the combination you can try using, but that's not possible here. All right, let's just exit. And we can also try to connect to the other FTP server. Now we've already seen that this is exploitable because of a vulnerability, but we don't know whether anonymous login is present or not. Let's check that. Now I don't need to specify the port number here since the default port for FTP is 21 and that VSFTPD is running on 21 itself. So again, normally in a realistic situation, you'll never find two FTP servers on the same system. It doesn't make sense. But in this case, they have done that just to increase the number of open ports. That's okay. So FTP and I press enter. Let's see whether anonymous login is something that's present here. Login successful. So anonymous login is an option that's available here. Still, this does not mean
But
that I will be able to do anything because let's say there are no files on the server, then that's useless to me
why in the previous case we didn't get this login failed?
because these are two different services. Okay, one is on port 2121, that's configured differently, and the one running on port 21, this VSFTPD, the one that I'm currently accessing. So these are different services and they are configured differently. So for this one, the one that we tried accessing earlier, anonymous login is turned off, but for
Okay.
this one they did not turn that off, so we're able to perform that. Now ls-al, I'm logged in, I'm trying to see what files are present, and unfortunately there are no files for us to check here. Okay, so there's nothing to be done. All I can check is what directory I'm in. If I'm not in the root FTP directory, then I could change into a parent directory and see something else. But okay, I'm in the root. Now this does not mean the or the main directory of the system. This just means the main directory for the FTP server. So if you are already in this and you can't see any files and there's nowhere else to go in that server, I'm just going to exit. So here anonymous login was not possible for one FTP service. It was possible on the other. But even then, there were no files for us to see or no files for us to get. Now, that's not always going to be the case. If you get anonymous login in a realistic situation, you might be able to find definitely some files that are running. Okay, so that's something you can keep in mind for FTP. Okay, just excuse me for a minute.
അവര് ക്ലോസ്ഡാ. അവര് അന്ന് ഓപ്പൺ ആക്കാൻ നോക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു ഒരു ദിവസം. മറ്റേ വിസുവി പൂട്ടിച്ചാണ്. ഇപ്പൊ അവിടെ പൂട്ടിയിട്ടാ ഉള്ളത്. ഇതാടാ, ഇതാണ്. ഞാനിങ്ങനെ ഓഫീസിൽ എടുത്തരാം. പക്ഷെ എനിക്കിപ്പോ എടുത്തിട്ടും കാര്യം ഉണ്ടാവില്ലല്ലോ. എവിടെ കമ്പ്യൂട്ടറിന്റെ വിട്ട ഒരു ഷോപ്പും തുറന്നിട്ടില്ല. ജസ്റ്റ് വീട്ടിൽ വെക്കാന്നേ ഇല്ലു, യൂസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റൂലല്ലോ.
Okay, sorry for that delay. All right. So what else do we have on the system? Now there is a MySQL server that's running as well. Again, this is if I'm able to access the server, it's not something that is going to give me shell access or is going to let me hack over the system, but it could let me access the databases that are present on the system. So let's see. So my SQL username root. Now this username root, it's not your Linux system username. is the username for the database. So for the database server. Okay, so MySQL username root hyphen p is for the fact that we are using a password. I'm keeping it blank for now. And hyphen h is since I'm not connecting to a MySQL server locally, but on another device. So with a blank password, I'm able to log in. Okay, enter password. I just pressed enter. No, all right. So the first thing I'm going to do here is going to tell it to show databases. No, sorry, misspelled that. Show databases. All right. So it has these 7 databases that it is showing me. Let's say I select a particular database, let's say DBWA, right? Let's just use DBWA. Okay, so this database is now selected. It says database changed.
It's
Yeah.
actually okay.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what were
Actually,
you
I think
saying?
screen is getting slow,
Screen is not visible.
but not like that. It is coming slow.
So what do you see currently on the screen? Like what is happening?
Now it's okay. MySQL DWA
Okay.
DB is
I'll
there
just
now.
I'll just go over it again. So what I did was
Okay,
MySQL hyphen u. Hyphen u is specifying the username. Now this is the
okay,
account for the database, okay, not the account for the system. It has nothing to do with the Linux account. So always we keep the, I mean, username as a root, and hyphen p is to mention that I am using a password to log in. Sometimes if it is configured that way, you can try logging in without password as well. But hyphen p is to specify that I am using a password. Now, the password is something that it asks in the next line. Then hyphen h is the host to which I'm trying to connect. If I were making this connection on my own system, on my own server, that's if I have a server running on my system and I'm trying to connect to it, I would just say I would stop at this point after hyphen p. But I need to include this since I'm connecting to another device, to another system. So I need to tell it which IP to connect. So after I connected it, it asked me for a password. So after I connected to it, it asked me for a password, enter password. And I didn't e- enter anything. I just tried to use a blank password, and it then allowed me to access the database server. After that, I said show databases to see what databases were present. So I did this, show databases. This is the result I got. Out of this, I selected this in DBWA database. I said use and DBWA. So when I did that, it told me that the database changed. So that means it it has selected the DBWA database now. Now I
so
can see, yeah, yes. I think there might be a network issue on your end because your voice is breaking up. I'm not able to make out a lot of what you're saying. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, actually, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ my Wi-Fi just cut off.
Okay. So, are you able to see the screen at this point?
Yeah,
All right. So, I've selected this DBW database, and now I want to check what tables are available in this database. So, I'm going to say show tables. So, there are two tables here. One is called guestbook, the other is users. Now, if I want to get all the data from users, I'm going to write an SQL statement here. Select star.
just can you hold it? Just hold
Yeah.
on. Just noting down the earlier point. Just can you hold it?
Yeah. Okay. Which one are you noting down?
Using use database.
Okay. Okay. Use it. All right. Yeah. Actually, you'll be getting the video for this as well, so don't worry about that. For every session you have a recording that is going to be given to you.
Okay, now you can start. You
Okay.
gotta
All right. So I'm going to write an SQL statement to select all the data from this table. Select star from users and add a semicolon to end it. I press enter. So it gives me all the data that is present in the users table. Now DBWA, that's a web application, and I now have the details, all the details for the users for that web application, including their usernames and password hashes. So if you are able to get into a database, if you are able to connect to a server directly, it could give you some information that you could use. All right. So now again, this is through this MySQL connection. There's no way to directly hack into the system or anything. That's not going to be possible, but it is possible to get some information. So I'm going to exit now. So it says bye and I'm out. Okay, so we've also seen MySQL now. And if you come back to Metasploitable, there's one more service that can be used, this Unreal IRCD. Let us see that. So there is a backdoor in Unreal IRCD 3.2.8.1. Do we have the version details? Let us check. We don't have the version details here, but you can try to use it. Okay, sometimes even if you're not completely sure whether it will work or not, you can try. If it works, then great. If it does not, hmm?
so can you hear me?
Your voice is breaking up a lot. I'm not able to get what you're saying.
Yeah, actually, something power cut is going on. So
Okay,
the Wi-Fi is automatically getting started.
right. Okay, yeah, it is a bit clearer now. So yeah, say what you were saying. Okay, are you able to view the screen at this point? If you're saying something, I'm not really able to hear you at all. Uh,
It's in
oh,
use, MF6 use.
yeah, that's where I am currently. So that's fine. If you're saying this use, that's what I'm at currently. So now I'll just proceed. So use 0, and okay, so the exploit is selected. And again, as usual, the first thing we do is check our options. Now the R port is set to 66667, which is the correct port. Okay, it's 66667. And I need to set the R host to the target IP. And if I try to run it, it's going to again fail because we haven't selected a payload. So I'm going to see the compatible payloads. So I'm going to see what payloads are compatible, and just again, as usual, I pick this reverse shell payload. So set payload options again. I need to set the L host value.
Sir,
Yes.
can you set it once more from the beginning?
Okay.
This section.
Okay, so what we did was I searched for this Unreal IRCD. Then I got one result. I selected that. Look, looked at the options, and okay, so this is what came up. R host was something I needed to set, so I did that. But when I tried to run it again, there was no payload that was selected. So then I looked at the list of compatible payloads, selected this one, okay, and set payload, and just pasted
Sure.
that value. Run options again. One more option we need to set in this case, lhost, which is the IP for my system. So I set that, and I can now run it. Okay, so it tells me command shell session 1 opened. What's the ID? Root. So this is another exploit that worked for us in Metasploit.
Actually,
Okay,
what means that IRC means?
it's okay. So you're asking about this service itself, right? What the service does.
Yeah, what is the service?
Okay. So what IRCD does is that it's I'm not sure whether you have come across this or whether you have used this. There was this thing known as Internet Relay Chat. That's IRC. So
Village chat.
yeah, Internet Relay Chat. So it was kind of a server. Like this IRCD is kind of a server that implements this chat protocol. And if you're hosting this, like if there is an IRC daemon, if there's an IRC service running, then it can allow people to talk to each other via the internet. Now, again, these days we have a lot of apps that allow us to do that. So, IRC is something that's not you know used a lot, but about 20, 30 years ago, IRC was very popular. 2025, yeah, 20, 25 years ago, IRC used to be very popular. It's not much used these days because you have all these services which are better and give you more options. So IRC is not something that's used anymore. But back in the early days of the internet, that was the main chat service that people used to use, Internet Relay Chat. So this IRCD is a daemon or a service, a server actually. And again, just like FTP, you have lots of different servers. So this particular one, Unreal IRCD, this is a particular IRC server. That's all it is. Okay, so that's it for Metasploitable. Okay, there's lots of ways to root this machine. Just most of them are simply involving the use of Metasploit, and there are some where even you can get information or access the system without using Metasploit. So that is a way through which you can access a system. If there's some vulnerability and you find an exploit for it, you can use Metasploit and you can run that exploit there. So uh, this is the end of this one, Metasploitable. Now, since even your friend is not here today and there are some network issues persistent, so we'll start the next one tomorrow.
Okay, so okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I'll give you the link for it so you can download it and get it ready on your system.
Yesterday's link, now.
No, that's different. uh, I'm
No, that's not giving the link of yesterday's class.
yes, yes, that will be done, but I'm talking about a different link, like the next
Ah,
machine to
yeah,
target.
yeah.
Okay, so this is called basic pen testing. The name, that's the name of this machine. So I'll just give you the link, and okay, I'll just show you the web page itself. I'll show you the website itself. Stop showing. So this is basic pen testing, and the website is onehub.com. Okay, so
One hub,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, so I'll mention this link in the chat. I'll mention it, and you just come here, and there are three links. You can download this file through any of these three links, and then you can use it as a virtual machine.
So this we have to download and install.
Pardon? Yeah, this is a machine that you'll have to download, and then you can use it. Like you did with Metasploitable, right? You have to download that and use it as a VM. Even this is the same. Now, that's not going to be the case for every machine that we do. Okay, we'll be moving on to other machines that don't require us to download anything. But for the first couple of machines we work on, this is how we'll be working through it.
So this we have to download first.
Yeah, you have to download this and set it up as a virtual machine. Actually, it's an OVA file, so should be imported as a virtual machine when you run it. Okay,
Okay.
so I've pasted the link, and even if you don't copy the link, just search for basic pen testing on OneHub and you'll get this. Just give me one moment. And